you would like to support the podcast and get some extra content while you're there, head on over to patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast and sign up. From the rewatch to the Q&A, we will have loads of content every week. So sign up, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. And now, here's the podcast. Welcome everybody. It's episode 413 of the SevereMMA podcast. My name is Sheehan, as my voice goes there as I'm saying my own name. Joined today by the Brian Cody of Irish MMA Media, Ian O'Neill, as we look ahead to Cage Warriors. This is a Cage Warriors special. Cage Warriors Dublin is coming up, so we are an Irish MMA podcast. We decided to go full on and have a full preview for the Cage Warriors card, so I drafted in one of our trusty Owl Triangle lieutenants to join me today to talk about all about this, and we will get into that in a second, but we must tell you first about our two wonderful sponsors. First of all, Manscaped. Spring has sprung and it's time to join the other 8 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by using the promo code SevereMMA to get 20% off and free shipping over at manscaped.com. I know Ian has been using Manscaped. I've been using Manscaped for a long time now, and they take care of you. Manscaped take care of you. The Performance Package 4.0 has everything you need. First of all, the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. It's an absolutely elite electric trimmer that provides the proprietary advanced skin safe technology. It is designed to trim hair on loose skin. Although your balls might look like punching bags, don't treat them like that. Waterproof. It has an LED light as well, so you can use it in the shower. Have you ever met anyone who finds nose hair attractive? Probably Harry Maguire, but no one else. The Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer provides the proprietary skin safe technology as well, which helps reduce snags, nicks, tugs, and all of that in your delicate holes. Then you have the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver Ball Toner. You heard that right. Ball deodorant can change your life. And if you get it now, you get 2 free gifts: the Performance Boxer Briefs and the Shed Travel Bag, so you can get all your stuff and put them all into that. Use the right tools for the job and head to their website right now to upgrade your hygiene routine. So get 20% off and free shipping with the code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. It's 20% off and free shipping with the code SevereMMA at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. Exciting news as well. We have a new sponsor. If you haven't heard before, Caldera Lab. I know a lot of people will be listening in specifically for the Cage Warriors preview, and they're a new sponsor. They support us. Please support them. If you haven't heard of Caldera Lab, they're all about men's skincare. It is backed by a clinical trial where 9 out of 10 men experienced healthier and visibly improved skin with Caldera Lab. You can get 20% off their best products right now by going to calderalab.com and using the promo code SevereMMA. Caldera Labs create high-performance men's skincare products by combining pharmaceutical-grade science along with nature's purest and most potent ingredients. What you want to get is the regimen bundle, a twice-a-day routine to transform your skin. It has 3 things in it: the clean slate, the base layer, and the good. The clean slate, first of all, it's how you start your day. It's a balancing cleanser. The base layer is a nutrient-dense fortifying moisturizer that hydrates your skin, leaving you with a matte finish so you can start your day confidently. And the good is your go-to at night with a clinically proven multifunctional serum that helps your skin look tighter and smoother. I've actually been using these myself now, and to be honest, Ian just said there as we came in, glowing, I think was the word to use for me. So I was absolutely good. I'm getting older. It helps with the fine lines, the wrinkles, the signs of aging and all of that. Are you ready to take your skin to the next level? Caldera Lab. Then look no further as well than the Icon. The rejuvenating eye serum is here to address the 3 most common signs of aging around the eye: the fine lines, dark circles, and puffiness. Committed to transparency, sustainability, and excellence, Caldera Lab is on a mission to better men's skincare around the world, priding itself on clean ingredients and doing right by their customers and the planet we live in. Caldera Lab is a certified B Corporation as well as a member of the 1% for the planet. Through uncompromising craftsmanship, I can't say that word, exceptional ingredients and rigorous transparency, Caldera Lab is here to provide your skin upgrade your skin and confidence. So get 20% off with the promo code SevereMMA at calderalab.com. That's 20% off at calderalab.com using the promo code SevereMMA. Unlock your youthful glow and be ready for summer with Caldera Lab. I also think you can go to calderalab.com/SevereMMA. So you'll get it there as well. So CALDERALAB. Right, Ian.
I'm almost distracted now, Sean, from the glow from your skin. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I just had to say it here on air again. You're looking fantastic. You're looking fantastic.
You're
Caldera
Lab. You're a pure Kilkenny man now. You know, trying to butter up these Limerick lads into thinking like that. You know that there's something good going, while like there's just sandbagging. Some people may call it. That's all the Kilkenny boys are doing these days.
We'll try anything to get the old win, Shawnee. You know yourself. After going out on Twitter there last week and saying that Galway are going to pip Kilkenny for the Leinster title, you're lucky that I even came on to talk with you at all today now, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know. I was listening to a few podcasts and I think lads got in my head, if I'm being honest.
No fucking championships are ever won on the podcast anyway, but we'll see.
That is very true. You know what? We probably need to do like a hurling state of the hurling. Oh Jesus Christ! That second captain's podcast with our man Malachi Clerkin. He goes like they were kind of saying, "Oh, Limerick are very good and all." And he's like, "Oh, why you praising them? Why we don't need?" It's not like Messi at the new camp ranting watching Limerick. I'm like, that's exactly what it is. Like, is it not? Like when I was watching Kilkenny back in the day, I was like, oh fuck, I wish Limerick would win. But I loved Kilkenny as a team. And I'm like, this is like watching Roy Keane, or this is like watching Zidane or whatever. These are the best players in the world. And look, it's Limerick's time now. I'm biased towards Limerick, obviously, but I wasn't biased towards Kilkenny, and I say it with them. But people just shit on things for no reason. Now I probably do it a bit with MMA anyway. But like anyway, I needed to get that rant out of there. We'll leave it.
But look, we might not like it, but you have to respect it, and I think that's what we got as well back in the day. So the tides have turned, as they say.
Yeah, and I feel like Kilkenny people are actually like pretty open to Limerick in terms of like fair play to them. Like, Jesus, they have some team, which is like, I think the greatest compliment you could probably get. They're probably thinking like, will you ever fuck off? Which is fair enough. Like, we're all,
yes,
which is I'd be doing the same, and I have in the past. But there is that level of respect there. Anyway, let's get into it. We're 8 minutes into the podcast. We haven't mentioned Cage Warriors Dublin yet, but let's do it. Look, this is the third time I've sat down to talk about Cage Warriors Dublin now, and I feel like we can hash it out even more here because we have, the link to the SevereMMA podcast to talk about it all. And we mentioned it over on the Chasing Pack the other day about the kind of the two feelings of this, that it's a very good card, and I'm looking forward to seeing, obviously you're going to be covering it over in Canada, watching in, and to see a massive fight for Rhys Mckee, a massive fight between James Sheehan and O'Banelli, a massive fight for Ryan Shelley and everyone else on the card. But there just is that twinge of disappointment. I know you said the other day that you kind of put that to one side, but when discussing it here and discussing the card from when it was announced first to now, I feel like it's a very different, and we did a podcast ourselves, matchmaking a card, and look, it's a lot easier to do that sitting at home here than it is for Ian Dean to do it, absolutely. But here's two questions. Are you disappointed with the card, and do you think Cage Warriors themselves would be disappointed with the card?
Am I disappointed in the card? As it's getting closer, the anticipation for me is definitely growing, because there is lots of good stories that could come out of a lot of these fights as well. Obviously with Rhys at the top, and you mentioned James Sheehan, Ryan Shelley, and a couple of more guys who are like Taka Mandhu making his debut as well. I mean, it's more like not disappointment, but more wonder. What would it be like if we had maybe a Paul Hughes on the card, or if we had maybe one or two other fighters on the card? I mean, Paul Hughes is the big one. He's not fighting. Doesn't look like he's getting signed to the UFC. So, I know maybe they probably tried to get him on the card. Maybe it didn't happen. Something went on behind the scenes. We don't know really yet. But all the talk that has been coming from Paul Hughes and from his camp has been they're waiting for the call for the UFC. That's the plan. They don't seem to have any eyes on Cage Warriors. And I think, maybe Cage Warriors should have pulled off a couple of stops here, got the checkbook out, and tried to persuade Paul Hughes to come on this, because we talk about this as being a good card, and it is a really, really good card. But you're talking about next level. Even if you get Paul Hughes onto it, and Caelan Loughran is another one that I think, he's fighting a week later over in Rome, and that one was a little bit baffling to me as well. Whereas you could put that in as the co-main event, and you turn a good card or a great card into a special card, just with 2 extra fights. But that being said, we've had that. We know what we're getting. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for Rhys. It's a big stage for him. The co-main event is unbelievable between James Sheehan and Oban as well. And I'm very excited to see Ryan Shelley. So the top 3 or 4 fights have title implications on them. And then we have a couple of guys who are coming in, trying to get back wins, making their debuts. And without breaking it all down, I guess we're going to get into it. But not disappointment. I'm not disappointed. I'm looking forward to this card. I'm really excited to see the fights. But I do wonder, it would have been a really special card if we had the likes of Paul Hughes on it, Caelan Loughran on it, and stuff like that. But look, we'll be back again in November, and we'll see what happens after that as well. So I think it's a shame. I'm really with Paul, I think all the buzz that was around that Vucenic fight, it's like the longer that we don't get to see him in there again, that'll slowly fizzle away. And I think, the perfect recipe would have been having him in a title fight, headline in this card, or maybe under Rhys. I don't know what way they would have done it. I'm sure neither one of those lads would have minded who was top and who was bottom, but it would have made it for a really, really great card.
I would tend to agree. I feel like with Paul Hughes, right? And now, to be fair, and maybe by the time this podcast comes out, we'll have more clarification on this. But I think they did try to get Paul Hughes, and I just think the closer we get to it now, we're only as we record this, only 7-8 days out from it. It's 3 weeks ago, a month ago, before the UFC London card, I was like, okay, it makes sense for Paul Hughes not to really have, a fight on Cage Warriors Dublin. He could get signed any second, any day. And look, if he gets signed tomorrow, then fair enough. But we're there now. We're a week away from the card, and would it have been bad for him to have prepared and be on the card? I don't know. Now, there might be something else. Maybe there's an injury or something that he can't be on the card. I suppose maybe we'll get some clarification on that around the weekend when the card is on. But it feels like a big miss. It really does. Whether he's not, could that have been explained and been told about that? The Caelan Loughran one, 100%. Now, I have sympathy with Cage Warriors. They need a fight for next week too. They have an event in Rome. They need to put a fight on that. But Martignoni was the champion. And he gave up the belt, and they're still doing it. I don't know. I just found that very. It's just senseless. Kind of put a big Martignoni fight on it. Put a big Dylan Hazan fight on that Rome card. The Dublin card is the one where you need to sell 9,000 tickets, or I think they're only doing half the arena. So the 4,000 tickets or whatever it might be. You need to stack this card to do that. This is your hub. This is the biggest arena you're doing. This is the one to look out at. Irish MMA is the war, I suppose, going on at the moment, because they have the 3 arena booked again for later in the year, and Bellator are here. Bellator didn't sell out the last time. PFL are coming. It's very hard to see how PFL can even put on, say, a great Irish card with the level of talent that's kind of signed everywhere else. But still in all, there's so many tickets on sale for MMA events coming up this year in Ireland, and plus in just over a month's time, Katie Taylor is fighting as well in the same arena. It's very, very tough. I think we are both in agreement that it's a very good card, but this could have been a mega card. This could have been a card we will remember for the rest of our lives, with 2 or 3 title fights on it, like a coming of age for the best fighters coming through Cage Warriors in Ireland. We see 2 or 3 of them going to the UFC, and best case scenario on Saturday night is 1 goes to the UFC. If every single Irish person wins, the only one going to the UFC probably is Rhys Mckee. I think James Sheehan probably have to have another fight. Ryan Shelley would have to have another fight, and no one else is close at the moment. So that does tell a story a little bit. Now, you know, that's not us being negative. That's just actually like analysing the card straight down, because when we talked about this card first, we were absolutely nothing but positive, and we will be positive about it again here as we get into it, because there are some very, very, very good fights, but it just feels like it's a little bit of a missed opportunity for Cage Warriors to do a blockbuster, never to be forgotten type of card. Like, the problem, like, Bellator have done like one or two of them that were brilliant, put on some brilliant fights, but they've kind of, you know, the last one wasn't great. The one before that was very, very good. And I felt like Cage Warriors had this opportunity to take advantage of that, and it's just not been done. Let's talk about the fights. And to me, there are three absolute blow-away, massive, brilliant fights on this. Rhys and Jimmy, James and Oban, and Tobias and Ryan Shelley. And I want to start with the main event for Rhys Mckee and Jimmy Wallhead. And it's... the fight itself, Ian, let's break down the actual fight itself. We can talk about the meaning for Rhys and the meaning for Jimmy and stuff in a second. How do you see this fight playing out? Like, I was watching a bit back of Jimmy Wallhead today, and like, you know, his nickname is Judo Jimmy, but he's been doing a lot of striking lately, a lot of knocking lads out, a lot of landing big strikes. Will that be the way he fights against Rhys? Well, with the power Rhys has and the way Rhys fights?
It'll be interesting to see. I think that's what makes this fight very intriguing. He should be maybe knockout Jimmy Wallhead instead of Judo Jimmy Wallhead, as you were saying. Jimmy. Yeah. Well, look, he's been, you know, he's kind of found a new lease of life, and maybe that's because he's just formed in his own head a pathway out of mixed martial arts, and this is his last run. It was a fantastic story. It was one of the stories of Cage Warriors last year. Him coming in and winning the interim title, and it was a fantastic and a very surprising win against Matthias Figlak as well. That kind of got him there. I do believe that Rhys is going to have to probably play it safe, as is Jimmy as well. So are we going to see a kind of a tit for tat tactical battle, or will we see Judo come in and what he's been doing over the last two fights really is go in and go hell for leather and try and get the knockout early? Now, when you are dealing with someone like Rhys Mckee, who does have that knockout ability as well, but, you know, Skabinski has it, Figlak has it as well. So maybe Jimmy is coming in here and he's thinking, I have nothing to lose here and I'm going to leave it all in there. And if he does come in with that attitude, I mean, we're going to be in for an absolutely crazy fight for however long it lasts for. You know, with Rhys, we seen him playing the patient game. Well, what I liked to see from Rhys was that we saw the patient game against Mantekivi. You know, we saw him being that, you know, methodical striker, pinpoint, and then we got to see another side of him against Justin Burlinson, where it was an absolute dogfight, and he had his back against the wall at certain stages, and he went and he had to dig deep, and he pulled that fight out of the bag, because that was almost very close to being stopped, I believe, in the first round or the second round when Burlinson had his back, and it was really close to being finished. The ref was taking a real close look. So Rhys knows that he has both of those performances, and Rhys has been in some dogged fights before in the past as well. But I think that those two fights showcase exactly what Rhys Mckee is all about coming in here. He's prepared to be, you know, I think Kiefer Cosby explained it very well when he spoke with us on the Owl Triangle. It was like, you can either be standing in the back and be the sniper, or you could be standing in the front line with the machine gun. And I think the last two performances we've seen from Rhys, we've seen him with the sniper and we've seen him with the machine gun. And it'll be very interesting to see how he comes out here and how he tackles the problem that Judo Jimmy Wallhead is going to bring to him in this fight. I expect Rhys to probably, you know, play it relatively safe early on in the fight and bring Jimmy into the later stages where he'll be able to pick him off with his jab. He'll be able to kind of pick his shots and dictate the pace of the fight, dictate where the fight goes as well. And I think the longer this fight goes on, the less of a chance that Jimmy Wallhead has of winning. And I'm very, very interested. The first 2 minutes of this fight, I'm going to be on the edge of my seat watching, because I have a feeling it's going to be absolutely hectic.
I think it'll be like that as long as it goes. It's one of those ones that two of them have so much power and like one punch knockout power that if this goes 25 minutes, it's going to be 25 minutes on the edge of the seat. But I think my analysis of this fight is the word you said there, picking shots. I think that's what it's going to be. I don't think this is going to be from the start at least, the most fast-paced fight. I think it's going to be kind of, as you use the word methodical, I think that's the perfect word for it. Waiting, setting things up, bang, land a big shot. And then it could turn into that war if someone gets hurt. Because, you get hurt, you go after them, they're going to go back after you and bombs away then at that stage, I suppose. But I do think, like, you were kind of saying there maybe it could go a little bit later, two or three rounds, possibly, if it doesn't in the series, and I would agree with that. But I don't know. I don't see it going that way. I think this is one of those fights that's going to end in the first 7 to 10 minutes. And maybe even earlier. Like, I would not be at all surprised if this was a first round knockout, because both of these lads will be happy enough to test their offensive ability and test the chin of their opponent. Both of them want to do it. I was looking at Jimmy Wallhead's record today, and if you look at it, KSW, Cage Warriors, Bellator, UFC, here, there, everywhere, and 39 years of age, is on a great run, is the interim champion. He is not coming around here to have, to pussyfoot around, to not get into a fight. He's coming out here saying, look, if I lose, I might never fight again. If I win, I might defend it. If I lose, I might have a fight for fun again. It's very, and we talked a lot about the analysis there. Maybe the other side of it is that, like, how much it means for both guys. It obviously means an awful lot for Jimmy, and, sometimes it meaning more can actually, like, work against you. Like, look, we talked about hurling there. Like, I'm sure when Limerick played Kilkenny in 2007, by God, it meant a lot more to Limerick that game than it did to Kilkenny. But who won? Kilkenny, because they were the better team. They were, they had the head on their shoulders and all of that, and they were well able to do it, even though they'd won, their 5 or 7 or 15 All-Irelands or whatever it was before it. Sometimes that's just the case. So I know sometimes it is the person who wants it more. I'm not talking that down at all. But I'm very interested to see with this fight, because you have one guy who's the weight of the world is completely off his shoulders. He's at the end of his career. He's literally he kind of said that he's coming to Cage Warriors. I'm coming here to have fun. I'm in this position. I'm loving it. Whereas Rhys Mckee is like, I need to win this fight to get back to the UFC. This is the most important fight I'll ever have in my career until, the next one and the next one and the next one. That brings an added pressure. That brings a difference. What do you think of that? Like, how is that going to work out? Because, we talked a lot of fights recently, even like the Izzy Pereira one. We talked about the mindset going into it. The Leon Edwards-Usman fight, the mindset going into it. I feel like this is another one. And we talk about that often, but it's very hard to predict how it's actually going to work out. And if you look at, say, those two fights I just mentioned, I think it probably worked the different way with the different sort of mindsets. How do you see this one coming in? Like, with the thing with Rhys as well, and I'll throw it over to you. Like, you mentioned it there, and I would agree. Like, when Rhys is at his best, it's when he is loose and flowy. I remember it was that Tim Barnett's second fight, I think, just to look so good. With this amount of pressure on him in the main event as well, in Ireland, with the UFC about the call, it's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders to actually perform that way, Ian, isn't it?
It is, but I don't think it's going to affect them all that much based off what I've seen. Like, I've had the pleasure of speaking to Rhys in a couple of interviews, and he's so laid back and relaxed about a lot of things that, even with, I was massively impressed with Rhys Mckee with all of the incidents that went around his first UFC tenure, to be honest. To go in there and fight top level competition, for it to not go your way, and then get caught, can be disheartening and obviously, like, very devastating as well. But he seems to have taken that in his stride. He seemed to have taken notes. And I mean, the performances that we've seen from him again, whereas that maybe that scenario might have broken a couple of fighters, but it didn't do that. I think it actually built Rhys Mckee into a kind of a new kind of machine, where he's kind of taken a lot of things in his stride, the release, the comeback, the fight in Belfast. I think there might have been a little bit more pressure on Rhys in that fight against Justin Burlinson in Belfast, because, he is up in Belfast fighting in closer to home up there. He's has to prove himself against a really good competitor in Justin Burlinson and win that title. And then now is the time that he goes and defends it as well. And listening to him speak with Andrew McGann and having had the chance to talk to him a couple of times myself, I do believe the pressure is there. And I believe Rhys uses that pressure in a healthy manner to kind of perform the way he wants to perform rather than let it smother him. And to maybe talk about Jimmy a little bit, I was very impressed with his interview with Andrew as well, because, you know, we talk time and time again about fighters who are talking about retirement, mentioning retirement, and having one foot out of the door. And that's something that we don't like seeing. But if you can kind of handle that scenario in a healthy manner as a fighter, and if you can come to terms with it before you actually retire, it can actually work in your benefit. And I think it's actually after working in Jimmy Wallhead's benefit coming into this fight as well. Like, he's approaching this fight with his last camp. He's down in London, Shoe Fighters. He's getting some decent work in with some really great guys down there. We're talking about the likes of MVP, Norbert Navigny Jr., amongst a bunch of other great fighters that are coming out of Shoe Fighters right now. So I think when you add all of those ingredients into both of these guys' skill sets and mindsets, I think that's what makes this fight an absolutely fascinating and intriguing contest. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it goes down.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. It's weird, I think, because it does fly under the radar a little bit, and I feel like Rhys always flies under the radar because, you know, he's a kind of a quieter character, and I suppose he kind of keeps himself to himself. He's not like, you know, your Ian Garry's or your Paul Hughes, but by God, is he every bit as good a fighter as anyone on the scene these days, and I'm looking forward to seeing him in the main event. I think he deserves this spot with you know, that prestigious 170-pound Cage Warriors title up for grabs as well.
Do you feel with Rhys, you know, obviously we've seen the Mankivi fight and it was a flawless performance, and then we've seen the Burlinson fight. You know, when you're talking about getting back into the UFC, obviously you don't like seeing fighters going out there and taking too much punishment. Do you think a super clean performance out here against Judo Jimmy Wallhead, or do you think if he's involved in another exciting war that has the whole of Twitter buzzing and Instagram buzzing again, you know, even though you're not really wanting to go out and take that damage, do you think it kind of would benefit him in maybe getting back with the UFC?
I think it would, but I think the thing that would benefit him more than anything else is a big clean knockout. Like, if he knocks him out, let's say a big left hook or a big head kick or something like that. That's the thing. Like, even remember Dean Barry, he got that big knockout and then he got signed to the UFC off the back of that. Like, that happens a lot of time. I remember Emil Meck, you know, he had one big win over, what's his name? The lad who kept ripping everyone's ankles apart, Husamar Palhares. And then he got signed to the UFC. You know, I think it could be one of those. And like, the UFC know him. They'll be watching. Like, Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard are one of them anyway. Sean Shelby, I think, will be watching these Cage Warriors events. It's on Fight Pass as well. They can't miss it. And like, let's say he goes out here and he starches him in 20 seconds or a minute or something like that. I think that would be better than anything else. And you know what? I think my prediction for the fight is actually something like that. I think Rhys is going to be calm. You know, he said it in the interview with Andrew, I made my debut here against Johnny Jitsu in the Tree Arena, and now I'm here headlining it. And I'm one of these weirdos, right? If I was a fighter, or if let's say I was playing for Limerick in Croke Park and it was the first time there, I'd love to go up like the week before, right, and like sleep in Croke Park, right? Just like on the ground. So do you know what? I'm a weirdo, right? Like, I like to know my surroundings and get comfortable. Like, I go to the Tree Arena now, I'm fine and comfortable. I know my way around. I've been there probably 20 times in the last couple of years. When I went there at the start, not so much. I feel like that's the same for everyone, kind of. Me more so than most, because I'm weirdo. But like, he's been there, he's done it, he's been in those dressing rooms. It's not like he hasn't been there before and done it before, and literally in that arena. And I think that helps. You know, if all the weight of the world is on his shoulders from his point of view, that can help take that away a little bit, and you remember the great performances you put on there, and you're just, look, I'm going out having another one. I think that'll help him. And I feel like Rhys is going to be cool, calm and collected, and I think he'll get the big knockout here. That's my prediction for this anyway. But we better move on, I suppose, and talk about a couple of the other fights, because, you know, the James Sheehan and Oban Elliott,
crazy fight, an absolutely crazy fight.
It's one of those fights. I was doing a preview for Sherdog, talking about, which people will be able to see during the week, and you know, sometimes I like to explain it maybe to the American viewers. And the only thing to say about this fight is, trust me. Like, these lads are good. The two of these lads would not be a miss on a UFC card. Like, the only people they've lost to are very, very, very good people. You know, the only people James Sheehan has lost to are two Cage Warriors champions. One of them is Ian Garry, and I still maintain it's the hardest fight Ian Garry's ever had, or the best opponent that Ian Garry has ever faced. Oban Elliott's only lost to one UFC fighter, and, you know, one of the Cage Warriors legends that's been around for a long time. These lads are young in their career. They've had tough fights. They're well able for it, and they're well able to get to the next level as well. I think, like, you look at James Sheehan, and the rising in levels that he has done throughout his career have been absolutely phenomenal. I think it came earlier maybe to Oban, and he had a few setbacks, and now he's back on that trajectory again. And now I think they've, like, you know, the two graphs go together, and I think they've met at this one place where the winner of this, I think, if let's say Rhys Mckee wins the title and he defends it, I think the winner of this will be the person he defends it against. If he doesn't and gets signed to the UFC, or let's say Jimmy wins it and retires, I think there could be a vacant title, and one of these two lads will definitely be in that matchup for it. I think that's how big this fight is. It's a wonderful fight between two wonderful fighters. I don't want to make a pick in this. I think this one is, I'm going to go with a draw on this one, because I really like both of these lads, but it's just a great fight, isn't it, at this level? I don't think you'd find another fight at 170 at this level with two lads 7 and 8 fights into their, 8 and 9 fights into their career anywhere in the globe with a quality as high as this.
No, I don't believe so either. It's like two really great prospects who have, like, built their way back from defeats as well, you know, where we've seen them at their most vulnerable inside the cage, more so at Oban as well, having suffered that knockout to Matters Flaminas. But, you know, two guys who kind of got back on the horse and are trusting the process here. What I really like about, I think this, similar enough kind of styles, and both guys are very well rounded, but very similar mentalities and and kind of trusting the process, and knowing what they have to do, and getting in there and challenging themselves against really good competition in order to improve themselves as fighters as well. And we've seen that over the last couple of years with Oban, and we've definitely seen it with James Sheehan as well. James Sheehan hasn't been defeated since his defeat of Ian Garry, and he's come in and he's taken on some really stern opposition. I think that win over O'Meal Brown for James Sheehan is not considered a good enough win as it should be, because O'Meal Brown has been going in there and putting guys to sleep. 100%. And James Sheehan went in there and absolutely went toe-to-toe with him at times, fought smartly and took the fight down as well, which just shows his level of fight IQ. We saw the knockout against Miklak, we saw another knockout against Martin Cause, you know, and this all came with maybe short notice of replacements and everything like that, but nothing got James Sheehan out of his stride. He knows what he wants, he knows what he has to do to achieve it. And, you know, he went in there the last time out, Cage Warriors 145, got a good unanimous decision win over Jamie Richardson. A very clean performance by James, if you ask me. And this one is, I feel that he's going to have to bring the dog out in this fight, or I think Oban Elliott is going to oblige him to bring the dog out as well, because this fight is going to be an absolutely grueling affair. There's going to be wild exchanges. There's going to be grueling clinch exchanges. There's going to be takedowns. There's going to be this fight is going to be fought all over that Cage Warriors cage, and it's just such a close matchup. It's so hard to pick. This, it might sound so generic to say, but it's literally going to be who is more on form on the night, who feeds into the atmosphere, who turns that nervous energy into kind of positive energy a little bit better, and who capitalizes on some of the small mistakes that both of these guys are going to try and make each other make during the fight. Like, my mouth was watering here even talking about, like, I cannot wait. This is like, you know, we talk about the main event at 170 and the co-main event. It's an absolutely fantastic showcase overall for the 175 or 170 pound division in Cage Warriors. And whatever may happen next, it's going to be hard to look past either one of these men, in James Sheehan and Oban Elliott, as the next contender for the title. Whether it's Rhys, whether Rhys moves on and it's a vacant title, I mean, you know, if Rhys Mckee didn't exist, these two guys would be fighting for the title. And if Jimmy did, of course, Jimmy holds the title as well. So once the guys get that cleaned up, be very interesting to see who gets the best of this fight, because they're definitely going to be next in line, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people thought Figlak would be the next guy, and obviously, you know, Jimmy took him out the last time, so he'll have to build back a bit. So I would agree with you. And on the fight itself, like, I don't know what's going to happen here. Like, you watch James Sheehan, and you just think he has become such a cool and calm technical striker over the last few fights. You mentioned the Cos fight and the Richardson fight, but also you talked about going for a takedown in the middle of one of those fights. So you don't know what he's going to do. Like, what's he going? Is he going to try to lull you into it and then go for the takedown? Like, I think the same could be said for Oban, because like sometimes you think Oban's a wrestler, and other times, you know, he wears, you know, his late father's boxing shorts going in there as well, and he is a boxer at heart, like at blood. He is a boxer, you know, and a striker. And I don't know. I just feel, and I haven't talked about it now 2 or 3 times. My general feeling is that Oban Elliott is going to wrestle hard here.
Yeah,
I don't know if
I think that would be a very good game plan for him, because looking at these two guys and how they match up with one another, I think while Oban is a good boxer, I feel that James is a very good kickboxer, kind of Muay Thai boxer, where he can dictate the pace with his kicks and the distance as well with his kicks, and kind of fight a little bit on the outside, where Oban does like to fight in the pocket. Oban does like to create a bit of chaos, and that boxing does open him up for the takedown, which we've seen him utilize over the last couple of fights as well. And it's going to be very interesting to see if Oban can close the distance against James, and what James is going to counteract with as well. So I would be expecting a lot of jabs from James, a lot of like deep kicks through the middle, trying to keep Oban off of him. I would imagine that James is going to be wanting to keep his back off the cage as much as possible. But then at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised to see James Sheehan create some takedown opportunities as well. And I mean, I think the more we talk about this fight, the more scenarios that will come up, and the more confused that we're going to get then, and who's going to win. It's like, it's just like, can this fight happen already?
That's the best sort of fight, because if we knew it wouldn't be fun. You know, if we know who's going to win, we know how the fight's going to go. It's not that fun. So this is exactly what we all wanted, and I absolutely cannot wait for it. Let's talk about Tobias Harila versus Ryan Shelley, because this is a fight that I am really interested in, to see where Ryan Shelley is right now. You're 6 fights into your career. You're 6-0. You know, you've obviously had the big test against Matthew Elliott, which was obviously a very close fight. And then you had Josh Reed in the massive step up in terms of name and madness, I suppose, when you're fighting Josh Reed, and you've passed all the tests, even, you know, beating Liam Malloy as well, and Alexander Yankov, who's been around for a long time early in your career after coming through. You know, the amateurs with only 1 defeat, I believe, to Solomon Simon, who we'll also see on the card. But I feel for Adam Shelley here, Ryan Shelley, even how many times I'm going to do that next week, for Ryan Shelley, that this could really elevate him to the next level. Because if you beat Tobias Harila, there's only 3 people left in that division. There's Paul Hughes, there's Jordan Vucinic, and then there's Morgan Charrier. And what will be that next step if you win this fight? Like, it'll be one of them. I'm pretty sure, you know, Charrier is due to be on this card. You know, Hughes, we just spoke about that earlier, and what's the crack with him? And Vucinic, they have announced him for the London card, no opponent or anything yet. But like, be sure the second Paul Hughes goes, they're going to be looking to put that interim title or the vacant title up for grabs. And it's going to be, you know, if Harila wins here, he's the name that's going to be in the hat. If Shelley wins here, he's the name that's going to be in it. And then you have the two others, you know, with Charrier and Vucinic. Before we even get, I suppose, to the fight itself, is this a bit early? Like, it feels like a lot of the Irish fighters are getting there very early. But for Ryan Shelley, it feels like he's done it quicker. And, you know, maybe he's had a good amount of fights, but he only debuted in 2021, I suppose, had 3 fights in 2021, 3 fights in 2022, or was it four fights in 2022? No, 3 fights in 2022, yeah. So, 6 overall, and now he's here in 2023. So 2 years as a pro, is that enough time to be getting in? Like, James Sheehan has been around for a good bit now. Oban Elliott has been around for a good bit now. Is this too much too soon, Ian? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think it is really for Ryan Shelley. Look, I don't think he has the time per se. Look, obviously he's had a very successful taekwondo and striking career before he moved over to mixed martial arts. And look, he came into mixed martial arts in the later years of his 20s, and he doesn't really have too much time to mess around with, to be honest. You know, James Sheehan came in relatively young, as did Ian Gary and stuff like that. So you have that little bit more time to develop. But it's that fact, but it's also the results fact as well, Sean. You know, with Ryan, you know, you get in there, you get a good win against Yankov, who's a decent guy. Great win against Liam Malloy. I mean, Ryan Shelley's Cage Warriors run has been fantastic with the level of competition that he's fought. Obviously, he took one fight away on Cage Conflict with Paula Vista, but you look at the Malloy win, the Jariv win, the Matthew Elliott win, which was a close fight, but he was massively impressive in that Josh Reed fight. Like, Josh Reed can cause a lot of problems in there, and I think that Ryan went in there and just wiped the floor with him. And, you know, for coming in as a guy who's known for his striking, he's got more submissions in his professional career than anything else. 3 rear naked chokes out of 6 wins. So that shows the work that he's doing in there at Team KF with Chris Fields and Tom, you know, that he's getting that mat time in. He's progressing his grappling game as well, and slowly developing into a very well-rounded fighter overall. And I mean, what better of a guy to put him in there with, to see how well-rounded you are, than Tobias Harila. Just a glorified madman, really, to be honest. A very well-rounded fighter, a guy who's going to move forward and push the action here. And I'm very curious to see what kind of game plan that the lads have come up with to kind of compete with a guy like that. The confidence of being undefeated is one thing, but the confidence of seeing your opponent being beaten before can add to that kind of level of confidence that you're bringing in too. And we have seen Tobias Harila, as good as all as he is, we've seen him beaten. We've seen William Gomis beat him on the back foot and stay out of there. And I can see Ryan Shelley doing that too, to be honest. And we've seen Samuel Barr come in there and fight fire with fire and put him out of there with knees as well. And I can see Ryan Shelley doing that as well. I'm very curious to see if Tobias Harila does initiate the grappling, how Ryan, does he get comfortable with that? Does he accept it? Or does he want to try and break away and win this fight on the feet? Because I do think that that's his easiest route to victory, is kind of picking him apart. I think you're playing with fire a little bit if you're going to come in there and kind of fight like Samuel Bark. Samuel Bark just came in there and said, fuck this, I'm going at this guy. And it was a great fight. There was a lot of, you know, Samuel Bark had testy moments in that fight as well, but it was the knees and the clinch. And maybe that's the weakness in Tobias Harila's game. Maybe Ryan has seen some things, maybe Chris is seeing some things, and maybe they can take advantage here. But if I'm the lads and you know, my assessment on the fight, I'm looking at that William Gomis fight where Gomis fought on the back foot. You land your strikes, you get out of there, you don't let Harila get too close, and you just pick him apart for 3 rounds.
It's the Kiefer Crosby thing again, isn't it? You're either the sniper or the hand-to-hand guy. Like, that's exactly 100%. It. And you know what? I was just about to say it before you said the exact same thing. You're 100% correct. I think Shelley needs to do a bit of both here, because if you just try to do one thing during the whole fight, it's going to be very hard to do that against a guy like Harila. Now, Gomis was able to do it, but Gomis, I don't think there are many fighters on planet Earth who could do what Gomis did that night, to be honest. And Bark is like a world-class kickboxer. I remember previewing that fight with Brad before it happened. He was like, just watch out for this guy, just watch out for this guy. And then we watched out and we saw what happened. So I don't think necessarily Shelley is as good as Bark at doing what he did, or as good as Gomis as doing what he did, but he might be able to do a bit of both better than the two of them could do a bit of both. Like, I don't think Bark could necessarily fight the way Gomis did, and I don't think Gomis could necessarily fight the way that Bark did. But do you need to be kind of that specialist to beat a guy like Tobias Harila? I suppose what we're going to do is what we're going to find out. I agree with you as well about and not necessarily even on the ground. You know, you said accepting the positions. Look, the biggest frustration I've ever had watching MMA is watching Anthony Pettis, and the fact that he always, or at times anyway, at like 90% of the time, accepted like walking on the back foot or being walked down. And it lost him so many fights. Now, he also was like, I'm really happy to fight in any position, and it won him a lot of fights with guillotines and stuff like that. But you cannot afford to do that against Tobias Harila. You know, we heard after the Matthew Elliott fight that, you know, and you know, he won the fight, so, you know, okay, we can decide whatever way we want about that. You know, Chris Fields spoke about it like he was happy to fight on the ground because he knew the criteria and he was landing shots. Well, you do that against Harila, and I don't think that's going to work. You know, you can't give up those positions against an absolute monster like Harila, who's going to be landing big shots on top. Like, I think if Matthew Elliott had his time again, I think Shelley would have to get out of there because he would be landing those big shots on top. I think it's a desperately hard matchup for Ryan Shelley. And Tobias Harila is a hard matchup for any fighter on planet Earth under 145 pounds. He just is. But like, I'll say it again, if he can pass this test, Ryan Shelley, no matter how he does it, I think we're talking about a next level type of movement after this, and I think everyone in Ireland will be very, very, very excited if he can pass this test and move on to the next one, because it's only bigger from here. Let's move on and run through some of the other fighters on this card. Obviously, there's a lot of Irish talent on it. Has Adam Shelley got an opponent yet? Obviously, you know, Dean Barry pulled out. I don't think anyone was too exclaimed when they found that out. Poor old Dean Barry can't catch a bit of luck. But have you heard anything about Adam Shelley yet? Does he have a fight?
No. Just based off what he said with Andy on the interview there, they had seemingly signed this fight with Dean with a backup fighter just in case anything did happen. But there's been no names crossed about. There's been no word from Andy or anyone about any progress in that. I do hope that he does get one. It must be massively frustrating for him, you know, to put the preparations in and for something like that to happen. Obviously, injuries do happen and stuff like that. But as you said, it was quite predictable that this was going to happen. I think Cage Warriors put in a backup fighter for that reason. And I think, it was just an unfortunate situation for him when he's getting ready for a fight. And now we're about 2 weeks out and we're not hearing any word. Maybe something has kind of gone down in the background. But yeah, I'd hope that we would get an announcement. We're like a little less than a week out now. So something's got to be happening fairly soon. And hopefully we get to see Adam Shelley on the card.
Yeah. There also are like 5 or 6 fights here around the 155, 145 range. So if he probably did wait a couple of days, maybe one will emerge. You know,
it could be like an on the day fight announced as well if someone missed weight or something like
Adam
that.
Shelley versus Ryan Shelley. Let's make it happen.
Warrior too.
We'll see it. So some of the Team KF boys, obviously we've just talked about the two Shelleys, but Leon Hill fighting Martin Zimbella. Taka Mandhu is on this card as well. Unfortunately, Omran Chaban on the card, James Webb on the card. I think they're two lads that people were really looking forward to seeing on the card again. That's a bit unfortunate. I think it's like, especially James Webb, like, I don't know, he fought a couple of weeks ago, but he could have been on this card, a former champion, just to beef it up a bit, but I don't know what the story is there. It's a massive night for Team KF because, you know, talking to Brad a couple of weeks ago on one of the previews, he kind of mentioned that, like, we always look in MMA about people, you know, carrying the flag and bringing it on. Like, we had the likes of Connor and Cahill and Chris Fields and Aisling Daly and everyone else, you know, in Cage Warriors holding those belts and you know, the likes of Neil Seary as well. And now we see the Team Rhino guys on this card, and they're the next wave of guys are coming through. We see the Team KF guys. I suppose this is kind of, you know, their night almost above everyone else's in terms of the Dublin contingent on it, with you know, a lot of big fights and a lot of moving fights on it as well. It's a massive night for Team KF, and this is kind of, I suppose, what they have wanted to do over the last few years. Like, they've gone down this route. They want to go the Cage Warriors route. They want to go the UFC route, and it's a massive night. talk to us about Leon and Taka. They're two of their best prospects. Maybe like, especially Taka, maybe hasn't got as many fights as he'd hoped over the last while. Leon now is on a better run. He's 4-1. But it's I would think that Team KF and all the lads are hoping this is the start of a great run, especially with the two big cards in Ireland now.
Yeah, it's kind of great for Team KF. You know, they have the Shelley brothers who have been, you know, making waves in Cage Warriors, and then also you've got Taka, who's coming in, who signed up a long time ago to Cage Warriors and is only making his debut now. Obviously, we've seen Leon in there before. He took a fight at very short notice for his first fight at Cage Warriors 116, took that on a week's notice and lost a unanimous decision. Since then, he's had some injuries. He spoke to Andy about a couple of concussion issues that he's had to sort out. And you know what? Good on him for kind of taking the time, taking his time in coming back and competing, because, you know, concussion is no joke. And we've seen some fighters in the past who've never recovered. So I'm hoping, and I think that the proof is in the pudding, really, that we've seen the last 3 wins from Leon. He's gone out there and he's got 3 finishes. And now this fight for him against Marcin Zembala, who's also himself on a run, it's going to be a good test for him. I think, look, at Zembala has a record of 7-6, but he's had a kind of a patch record. He's fought decent competition, but over the last year or two, he's really found his rhythm. He's won his last 3, and it's a good test for Marcin, as it's just as good a test for Leon Hill. But I'm very excited to see Leon. This is the kind of platform that a guy like Leon Hill needs to be on. It's also a platform that Taka Mandhu needs to be on. And I think with Taka's career so far, in his professional career, at only 25, we've only seen flashes of how good that Taka can be. And he spoke to Andy about, you know, a new lease of life and a newfound dedication to the sport. And I'm glad to hear that coming from Taka as well, because that's what you need to get to the very top. He looks in phenomenal form. He has a great personality, has a fantastic set of skills, very well rounded. So I'm excited for him to come in here in Cage Warriors and showcase his ability. You know, Benoit Blanc is a decent challenger for him. You know, we've seen him at Cage Warriors 137. He was unlucky not to get the win against Palaricio. An
SPG fighter in name Cage Warriors, what?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, got, and I think he's fighting again now too, as well, on the future cards. So yeah, but look at Palaricio is a very good fighter as well, and you know, there's no shame losing a decision to a guy like him. But it's a really good test for Taka here. I'm just delighted that he's on this stage. Delighted that we're getting to see him compete again. I'm looking forward to seeing Taka 2.0. That's what he's saying that it's going to be, and the cat will be back in style as well. But you know, we have to give a mention, and I'll go back to Marcin Zembala as well, who's always a good representative of Irish mixed martial arts. He fights out with Team Torres, and at 27, like I said, he's found his groove, and it's a kind of a, what do you don't want it? Do you want us to call it a domestic? Is it a domestic? Could we label this a domestic fight, Sean?
I don't know. I didn't borderline. I'm a bit like Vince McMahon for certain words. I hate the word domestic. Like, let's say, I don't know. Like, let's say Rhys Mckee got to the UFC right now and he fought Ian Gary. There'll be people calling that a domestic fight. Like, fuck off with that shit. Like, that's not a domestic fight. Like, this is touching. I think you could just about call this a domestic fight. Maybe. Kind of. Yeah,
we'll squeeze it out. We'll squeeze it out. But yeah, like, I mean, look at the two Shelley brothers with Taka, with Leon. Like you said, it's a fantastic night, proposed night for Team KF. You know, we're getting the vibes of the rise of the likes when Chris was coming up with all of his teammates. He's trying to create the exact same kind of atmosphere in Team KF and with Cage Warriors as he did himself in the past. And I'm very excited to see how it all progresses. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Team KF goes on. All got solid tests, but that's all that you're going to get in Cage Warriors.
It's a massive night too, you know, obviously for Dublin, Team KF and Team Rhino as well. We spoke about James Sheehan in depth there, but I think it's a big night for, what would you call it, the northeast of Ireland, with, you know, Rhys Mckee obviously in the main event. You have Marcin Zembala, you have Deki McAleenan, you have Kyle McClurkin, you have Paddy McCorry, a lot of guys from that area of the world. You know, Andrew McGann will be absolutely delighted, but it's been a real hotbed for MMA over the last while, hasn't it? Because, like, I wonder, is that a bit of an advantage too, the fact that we had no MMA in the Republic for a long time, and it was very hard to get it going, and they had a lot up there. I wonder is that a bit of an advantage, but like FAI is a very good gym. We know Rodney has been doing a lot of great work for years. You mentioned Team Tara is there, a good, you know, and okay, I heard their jiu-jitsu isn't great, but other than that, you know, I'd say it's very, very, very good. That's a joke. That's an Andrew McGann joke. If anyone, but
he'll be after you.
He will be after me. But it's a great time for that side of the world. I know yourself covering a lot of the local MMA, obviously on the old triangle with our championships and all the other cards. You know, Cage Legacy obviously kind of coming from that side of the world as well. It's a real hotbed for MMA, and probably the hotbed for MMA in Ireland outside of Dublin, I suppose, or even in conjunction with Dublin early.
Yeah, 100%. Like, hotbed is the exact word that you should be using there. And, you know, you mentioned Paddy McCorry. I'm very, very excited to see him coming in here after the performance that he put on. Look, he lost to James Webb, but you're coming in at this early stage of your career and you're putting on a performance like he did against a former middleweight champion in Cage Warriors, losing a unanimous decision and almost had him out of there in round 3 as well. So, I mean, number one, it takes balls of steel to come in there 25 and take on a fight at short notice. And, you know, he would have gained massive lessons from that. He gave a great interview with Andy up at FAI, and he's definitely one to look out for as well. Kyle McGlurkin, the same, coming out of FAI. You know, he hasn't had things go his way. I obviously lost to Kristen Leroy Duncan last time out, but picked up a couple of great wins before that as well. And I feel, you know, he's going to learn a lot. Like, there's no shame to like losing to a guy like Kristen Leroy Duncan, who's gone on to the UFC now. So I think for both Paddy and for Kyle coming out of Team FAI or FAI Ireland up there in the north, I think is, you know, 2 bounce back performances, 2 good chance to get back into the win column. And I'm very excited to see that as well. You also mentioned Team Rhino, Adam Darby coming back. He'll be looking to kind of respond after his first defeat as well. And I think, you know, he's going to learn a lot of lessons from that knockout. I mean, what lessons can you learn? I'm not too sure, but I mean,
he has all the skills, doesn't he? Like, he has the size, and the jab, and the power. He got tough one. Yeah, he got clipped early in that fight, and sometimes, you know, it just proves. Sometimes if you're not fully turned on from the start bell, these things can happen, and you know, we see those kind of things happening early in people's careers. But like, I always love, and we mentioned 3 guys who are coming back in off the back of losses there, and Paddy and Kyle and Adam Darby as well. To me, right, what gets me excited as a guy who watches mixed martial arts is what we're going to see next. Because when a guy loses a fight, it completely molds their thinking, it molds their training, it consumes them, and it turns them into a beast sometimes as well. You know, it's very hard to stay undefeated in mixed martial arts. And I always get excited. You know, we always revel in the undefeated streak, but what I enjoy most is watching a fighter come back from especially their first loss of their career, where they really reassess stuff. And I'm very excited to see Adam coming back, as I am with Paddy, and the same with Kyle as well. And then there's a couple of other young and up-and-comers. I don't know. I'm just staying ranting here until you stop. You're dead right. I think we've only a couple left, but I suppose Solomon Simon and Alexander O'Sullivan, you're mentioning about Alexander O'Sullivan's opponent kind of saying that he might be out, but sure, I'm sure they'll get someone else. But the 2 of them, like, you could argue that they've been the 2 standout amateurs on the scene over the last maybe 5 years. Maybe others have gotten to a higher level or whatever that might be. But, you know, I've seen both of these lads fighting live as amateurs. I remember Solomon Simon, I think it was his 2nd or 3rd amateur fight, and I tweeted out, like, very impressed with Solomon Simon, and now to be able to see him as a pro is going to be very, very good. And another guy as well, coming out of Team Rhino and Team Rhino Waterford as well. And, you know, for Alexander O'Sullivan, kind of running that gym now in CMAC, probably the most active early amateur gym in Ireland over the last few years as well. It's great to see him getting his flowers and getting his placement on this big card, because he deserves it. He has trucked and trailed around the country and around Europe as an amateur, and it's great to see him, I suppose, get this placement here. A couple more. We didn't touch on Decky much, but like, Decky McAleenan is a guy who was close to the title contention a few years ago at 155, down at 145 now. I don't know much about his opponent, Wasi Adesina, but Cage Warriors always have been high enough on Decky. He always brings it, it's always fun when you watch Decky fight. And, it's Decky in his IR championship as well, isn't it? He's doing, he's involved in MMA, I suppose, all the time. But, I can't forget about Decky's fighting as well. It's a big fight for Decky. But also Ryan Curtis. Those two lads, I think, are the lads that are, a couple of wins. And I mentioned it earlier, there aren't a lot of people, I suppose, outside of the top 3 fights on the precipice of maybe moving up. A lot of lads, young and will need 3, 4, 5 fights before they get into that talk. But Decky and Ryan Curtis are two guys that are like, they've been around for a while now. Maybe they've got unlucky at times in their career. Definitely with Ryan Curtis getting so unlucky with injuries and all of that. But those are two lads in the middle of the card that I think a lot of fans will come out for, especially Curtis. Like, he used to have an unbelievable fan base in Ireland, and I think he's a very good ticket seller as well. So the two of them lads, a big night for, I suppose, how would you say that? The kind of the lads who have been around and just trying to look for that opportunity, trying to get that break for a good few years now, and it just hasn't worked out for them yet. But you always have that little bit of hope for the two guys, because they're, they not to stick them together or anything, but like just. They have that quality, especially Curtis. I think a lot of people talk
Curtis.
Both
guys looking for a career resurgence, in some ways, and that's what I would label with Ryan and with Decky as well. Two guys who've been around for the longest time as well. And Ryan got into the Win Colin McCage conflict 8th last year as well. He had previous lost to Tom Creasy and Amir Albasi as well, and I believe Amir Albasi has gone on to fight in the UFC now and is a very, very good fighter. So, I mean, it's not as if Ryan had been losing to bad quality guys, but he's back. He's up in FAI. Now he's doing his thing up there as well. And I'm excited to see him. Like, I mean, I think this is the perfect move for a guy like Ryan Curtis, where you're going to go in there and you're going to get nurtured as a fighter by the matchmaking of Ian Dean. Like, I think one of the biggest things that Cage Warriors have going for it is the development of fighters, because Ian Dean knows the right matchups to make at the right time for every particular fighter. And he makes it look easy, but that is not fucking easy. I don't care what anybody says. So now Ryan Curtis finds himself in Cage Warriors, and I'm excited to see him progress and see how he gets on. He has a tough test in front of him, and Nicholas LeBlanc, he's going to have to be at his best. But, it's very exciting time for him. Still young in his career, still has time to bounce back. There's a fresh 125-pound weight division in there at Cage Warriors at the minute. We have the likes of Lonner Kavanagh and stuff like that. So there's a couple of great matchups and a couple of great tests ahead for a guy like Ryan Curtis. And it's the same with Decky. I'm going to be, obviously we're recording this a little bit earlier. I will be speaking with Decky. It will be out on SevereMMA. Always a good chat. Engrossed in MMA and with Ur Fighting Championships, he's doing a fantastic job in matching some of the young and up and coming fighters, while at the same time balancing it out with his own career. Look, it was the scary knockout that he had against Tobias Harila. I think the circumstances that surrounded that fight didn't really give Decky the ability to showcase his full abilities in there. Took the fight at short notice, took it at a different weight class than he was originally planning. But he's back down in the featherweight division now. Like you, I don't know too much about Iduwu. I will have to kind of look at some tape as you look at me strange from saying it. I think I did. Hope I didn't butcher his name.
I think we're looking at two different lads. Isn't that Wasi Adesina he's fighting?
I'm looking at Iduwu on Sherlock.com here. So
I don't know what's gonna. He's fighting someone anyway. I think we can.
Are you looking at someone different? I don't know.
I don't know what I'm looking at. I think we can say with a good bit of certainty that some of these fights will probably be different by the time you're listening to this, or by the time Wednesday.
We'll have to come on and do another preview show on the Friday before.
The one last thing though is kind of the joker in the pack here, and Morgan Sharia, who's due to fight Pedro Coleman. Look, outside of opponent, we can forget about that for a second, but Sharia, you know, we spoke earlier about the 145 pound picture and about him, but like the thing here is, I wonder how many people are going to be traveling to see Sharia. Like, could we have a big French contingent here? I think that'd be absolutely class if we did have that. You know, we saw with KSW a few years ago the madness of the Polish crowd there, and I think the Irish crowd mixed with that. Although walking out afterwards was a bit iffy, but during the night it was absolutely class. And I think the French might be a little bit different. But I think that'd be class, and just to see Sharia as well. You know, he's one of those fighters like Vucinic or like Hughes or whatever that you want to see fighting. You know, one of the best fighters in Cage Warriors, and you know, I think without a shadow of a doubt, nearly their best division. Maybe 170 as well, but 145. No, I think it is 145. I think they're smashing fighters in that division, so it'd be good to see Sharia as well. You never know with Sharia, though. Fights, you know, they tend to fall out a week or a day or a minute before he stays to fight. You know, with Morgan Sharia, Dean Barry, fucking Ryan Curtis, all on the same card. What could possibly go wrong? Dean Barry, we've one down, we've two to go nearly, but no, touch wood. That's not going to happen.
Yes, don't jinx it. Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Already jinxed it. Right, is there anything have I left anything, Ian? I think I have got it all. I think I've gone through it all. But look,
you're all set for the trip up to the Big Smoke now, Sean. Your favourite place in the world.
I am. I'm only going for the one day because the media day is already done. Shout out to Andrew McGahan for heading down to us for that. And we like yourself and Andy have done a great job with some of the interviews. I might even have an interview myself up by the time this comes out. I never say when I'm interviewing someone because they always fall out, so we'll see. But I'm looking forward to it. It's kind of snuck up a bit. I think it really has snuck up a bit, I think, on everyone. But if you're listening to this and you're around Dublin on Saturday night, there are tickets available and it's very fucking cheap. And it's also one of those ones, right, where I would nearly be certain that there will be one person off of this, at least, who like goes on to have a top career in terms of being a Cage Warriors champion or going to the UFC or something like that. And you can be like me there saying, well, do you know what, I saw Solomon Simon as a 2-0 amateur and now he's a pro, or, you know, I saw James Gallagher fighting as an amateur, or I was there for, you know, I was there for Rhys Mckee's first fight in the Tree Arena and now he's there headline and I'm going to be there. I was like, you know, you can be one of those pricks like me to do that.
I was in the Helix that night for the Cage Warriors.
Were you there?
I was not there. My cousin Mick Brennan, I think, fought on that card, and I chose not to go up, and I was raging. And I watched it on the telly at home in the local pub. That's why I'll tell you the truth. I chose to go on the beer for New Year's.
Was it on MMA Junkie at that time? Was it, or what was it on?
I thought it was. I think they showcased it on. Satanta? I think it was Satanta Sports. Maybe. Yeah, I watched it on Satanta Sports. I'll never forget it. Jeez. But yeah, it looked like a madhouse there. I didn't have the pleasure of being there. With the rest of the 50,000 in attendance.
No, I wasn't there either. I was at the ones, the Shea Mills Carl Pindred one, the Neil Seary one, where he almost got head and arm choked by, what was your man's name? Can't remember. But yeah, was that them ones? Those Helix cards were really fucking fun. It'd be great to have something else there. I also love the Helix cards.
They don't, like, Cage Warriors don't really miss in Ireland, really. You know, this card is going to be the same. Like, I think the Belfast card was good as well. Like, they've always created some historic moments. Like, and that's what has me excited. You know, you get a little bit nostalgic about the history of the Cage Warrior Dublin cards, or just the Cage Warrior Ireland cards. Even the one down in Cork, you know, created some fantastic moments, and it'll be very, very interesting to see who's making the headlines. I'd expect it to be Rhys Mckee. I think he's going to go out there and put on a clinic, get a very impressive win, and then march on to the UFC in July for that fight night card. That would be the perfect outcome.
Yeah, I would agree. We will leave it there, so we will be back next week with even more on Cage Warriors. I will be home. I was actually thinking myself, my partner is coming to take a few photos as well. I was thinking of saying to him, like, do you know what? We won't bother staying in Dublin now. We'll head straight home. 11 o'clock. We'll be home inside and tucked up inside in bed here in Limerick by like 2 o'clock. It'll save me fucking 250 quid on one night in the fucking Gibson. You know? Let's do it.
You're not getting out that easy, Sheehan. You're staying in the Big Smoke. That's it.
Fucking Dublin. But anyway, looking forward to seeing anyone there. If anyone is listening to this and you see me around, come up and say hello. I don't think it'll be as mad as usual, so, you know, if you see any of us around, especially if you see Graham, like, say hello to Graham, because, you know, he gets a big head in these things and all. So we will, I'm looking forward to seeing you all there, and looking forward to seeing the fights up close in person as well. And I usually feel bad saying that, because I'm like, poor Oline, he doesn't get to see the fights and that. But now, you bastard, you have better fights than us coming up, going to Vancouver.
I get my chance in the sunshine there fairly soon now, hopefully, fingers crossed. And then it is tough. I'd love to be able to be there, but look at the way it works out quite well for us behind the scenes. Get to do all the things, set up all the interviews, put them out there for the lads. They always do great work there. Check out all the great work that's happened before here as well. Andy's talked to almost everybody on the card. We've had a couple of people on the Owl Triangle. Shawnee's talked to a few people, all over there on SevereMMA. Hit the subscribe button.
That's it. And also this week, if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, where's the UFC talk? Well, Ian and Harry will have it out this Tuesday on a yet to be named news show. Obviously, if people haven't heard, Spencer Kite has parted ways. I feel like I'm announcing a managerial sacking here or something. But it was
you're like Jim White on Sky Sports here.
Breaking news. I need one of these. Hold on. Do I have it? Can I? No, I can't do that. That's going to get taken off YouTube. But I'm going to leave that there anyway. But Spencer put it out there during the week that it was obviously, a tough transition over, and he's decided, to go back to his Substack and do his stuff there again. I wish him well. I think we'd love to have him back on as a guest and stuff down the line as well. We had a great time with Spencer, and it's very unfortunate that it didn't work out. And obviously, I think it's an opportunity now for some of the lads as well to take up some of the content as well. And I know you and yourself and Harry are going to be doing the post-fight analysis coming out from the UFC, we have been doing over the last while. And I think it's a show that's really needed, because myself and Graham come out on a Sunday morning. We mightn't have got a chance to watch it back totally. We're talking about maybe the biggest storylines, whereas you're going to concentrate more on the tactics and the technique talk and all of that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that. So if anyone out there has any ideas for names or anything for that show, let us know. The audio will be up on our Patreon. The show will be up for free for everyone on YouTube as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I assume you're looking forward to starting that out now, Ian. You are.
Absolutely. First of all, definitely go over there and support Spencer's work. It was great doing the bits and pieces with him over the last little while, and we do wish him the best. Great guy, and definitely go over and support his stuff on the Keyboard Kimura on Substack. And me and Harry will kind of get in there and get down into the nitty gritties. Honestly, I don't think there's anybody that's more capable of technically breaking down a fight quite like Harry Powell. It's fantastic, and to be a part of it and to help him do that and to share some of my own opinion as well, I'm really looking forward to kind of taking up that mantle. We'll preview the UFCs when they're happening. When there's no UFCs happening, we might look at other fights. We'll always be looking to bring you a show every Tuesday there. We're going to keep that slot open, and I'm very looking forward to it next week.
Beautiful. The preview show, now meet the review show. So we're coming at you.
Check out one more plug before I go. I'm some man for the plugs. Owl Triangle on Wednesday. We've got
them pricks. Don't never like them.
Owl Triangle. Check that shit out on Wednesday. We've got two big guests in the works there. I'm taking your advice.
Don't do it.
It was one of the best advice that you ever gave me before I started doing this, is never say what's going to happen unless you have it in the bag.
I have a guest on tomorrow for Sherdog, and I haven't even told Sherdog who I'm getting.
I love it. But check out the Owl Triangle too on Wednesday on the YouTube channel and everywhere else as well. I'm looking forward. I'll be there. We'll be getting the lads' opinions on Cage Warriors and everything like that, and we'll have a few guests on to talk about the fights too as well. Non-stop, head to toe, fingertip to fingertip, SevereMMA has you covered with a lovely big hug all over, and we'll never let you down. There's some other people that fuck off for 5 years and then come back and try to tell you that they're I was the first one there, I've been covering MMA we've been here all the time, and we're never gonna leave you. You know that. You can rely on us, and SevereMMA have got you covered, and we will continue to do it from here until perpetuity. Thanks to everyone for listening. Click the subscribe button. Fuck the rest of them. Up SevereMMA, up Limerick, up Kilkenny, and we'll see you all